like just in being in the community for this period, and there's different crews right now. Like I'm seeing that even in the conscious community, there's like what we call the New York crew. There's the LA guys, and these people have their own subdivisions and their own ideas of what consciousness is. And what I noticed that is the plague that is inherited from these groups that is coming from the same world or system that we've been using that's dysfunctional is the idea of competition and the competitive state that even males generally find themselves in. Females have it going on too. And it doesn't even matter if you put the title on them that they're conscious. They have this thing going on internally due to social structure, all these other things, stuff you have had happen when you were a kid and all that, where it's like, well, who does it belong to and who's the leader and all these kind of things that are still prevalent within the people who are supposedly quote unquote conscious. And to chime into what you were saying about older systems that were very refined that we could just bring back into play and that they would serve wonders for us. I think that there's no other, let's say, blueprint to how we should be functioning than just looking at the tribal setting. Because in relation to what each person in the tribe is going to do. And it always starts off with first, let's say as a child, you are not aware, you're even trying to figure out how to use your hands. And so you're not aware necessarily of what your gift is. It's just that everybody around you knows you have a gift. Everybody is born with a gift. So then instead of, let's say, a competition where we try to even keep you from knowing your gift so you don't somehow outshine us all, in an ancient tribal setting, it's more of once we unlock his gift or her gift, then it's going to add to everybody else's gifts. Then the tribe is going to be a sum total of all of our gifts together, rather than one person that has now the king or the serpent lord or whatever you want to call it. And now everybody is like, hey, how do we function? How do we move? And how do we even live and eat, master? Which is actually going on really in the conscious community. You're talking to somebody who's been in this for 10 years. And I've yet to really be invited at all to any major network that's out there, even though people know my name, they know who I am, they know what I've done, they know what I've created, they know where I'm going, they see the creed, they know how we function, they know all this, but there's still that core haterism, if you want to call it, that is saying, well, if we bring Sevan Bomar in, Sevan Bomar may take away all of our clients because he's saying some shit that we can't say because we're still trying to sell it to you and we're still trying to do this with it. And so I feel like that we're getting finally to that stage where we're going to take what we build. Because let's take an example. Dormant Labs, Aubrey Marcus. Okay. Now let's look at the whole prototype there, because when we look at the prototypes, we actually see the systems that work, especially if we can get something that's close to even what we're doing. So they start off with this product that is nootropics. First thing they do is they grab the Joe Rogan, because they were all friends in the first place. They come into this endeavor because Aubrey Marcus already has the capital. His father has the capital to begin to create this affiliate product around this new trending thing called nootropics. But we still need customers. How do we get the customers? So we take these people that are like the has-beens of the athletic field, that like your Wayne Gretzky's, whatever happened to him, everybody loved him, but he's not playing hockey anymore. Where is he? We call up Wayne. Hey, Wayne, do you want to, I don't know, create a little simple video or course on something that you're doing right now? Wayne's like, shit, a chance to be back in the game? For sure. And then it's always a snowball effect. Is Joe there? Oh, Joe's with you guys? Oh, shit, for sure. I know Joe. So then there becomes this cascading of everybody getting involved based on another person being involved. Meanwhile, On It Labs is growing their numbers because they're getting that 100,000, that 80,000, that 30,000, that 200,000, which are like the core groups of dedicated people that were still looking and checking for Wayne Gretzky and whatever he was doing on his Facebook or Instagram. Now they're this monolith where they have this influence. But at the end of the day, how much is On It Labs, for better or for worse? Just something for them to look at their own prototype, doing specifically for the conscious community with the capital that's being earned. How much is Gaia TV at $30 million or whatever it is a month, somewhere in there? They're reporting their profits because they're trading on the market. How much is that current being actually used to continuously drive the growth of the community in a symbiotic way where others begin to unlock whoever they are, the future of this whole thing, that we actually paved the way for them. So I still have quote unquote beef, if you may, with the overall way that things are being run, with the powerhouses that are draining much of the resources that are currently available in the conscious community, because it still only has, as an industry, a 17%, 12 to 17% saturation on mindfulness. And that the lion's share of that is going to still these networks that can afford, because most of them were media outlets before they even became conscious networks, and they switched over to becoming conscious networks because they saw in their data sets that this was going to be the new trend. And now it's
marketing.
And now it's, this kind of thing. And so I feel like that there's that to the community. The conscious community has a date coming with that, to where we have to begin to accept that, even if that's how you were functioning before, that now together we're no longer going to allow this kind of thing to really go on without someone, or all of us, if you may, saying that, hey, can we get one school for kids homeschooling, where the money is being put for the parent to come in and to take this homeschool course about consciousness for their kid? Or are we still going to do a new earth where everybody is going to be looking at Sasha? And I'm just saying, for all of us, this is why, let's say, for instance, that other people may not call me in necessarily, because I have to call myself out like that every single day and say, well, Sevan, is it all about you? It's never been about me. That's why we call it understanding. It's actually about you. You're the central character in all this. I'm looking to unlock your gifts, because when you unlock, then all of us, because I can't do this myself. Like, have you ever noticed how if you try to go into a big endeavor by yourself, you end up being the janitor and the president? So who wants to do all of these different aspects by themselves? But I'm just speaking to that for a moment, just because, it came up in my consciousness about, I wouldn't generalize yet that the conscious community is actually in a state where it's ready to utilize the protocols in which that we saw within the Federal Reserve, and how they structured their finances to be able to deploy that, because we're still dealing with egotistical outfits that do still suck up the lion's share of what we're calling right now as the conscious community. And that day is coming where it's like, where we have to call that out and say, but if there's no example, here's the thing, because the same thing applies for conspiracy. If there's no example, though, of, so what is the alternative, Sevan? So what is the alternative to this, which we can't complain about, because this is what we're using and this is the only thing available? And so I'm saying that, as from what I said, especially if there's any of those guys listening, as from a level of constructive criticism, I'm one person with a heart and the compassion and knowing what my best is. See, I know what my best is. I've aced tests that were complicated without studying but one night, because I knew if I flunked out, I probably was going to get whooping when I got home. So I know what my best is, and I challenge myself constantly, well, is that your best? And I feel like that we got to have that check back system with the community. That's why I created the directories and create these things, because every time I go to my YouTube now, I have to see Mind Valley videos. And because I'm also in Latin America, I see the same video. They won't even change out the video. And it's like, but when's the last time Mind Valley A-Fest, beyond these courses and beyond the stuff that they keep selling, has ever took the millions of dollars that I know that they're making and actually took a fraction of that and spent it on things that we can all benefit from? This is not what we're seeing yet. And I know that because I live in this. I breathe in this. Some of these people are at least 1 degree or 2 degrees of separation from being a friend of one of my friends. And so I can see this, them treating this the same way they would treat if it was a car dealership, the same way that if it was a holistic store on the corner. It's still that bottom line, how much I'm making profits. Also, here's another thing. There are people out here, there are beautiful beings out here right now that have a powerful message that will blow what me and you have to say away. But they have no platform, because the same thing that has happened to me and still happens to me is they look at my numbers and they start seeing, what is the benefit of bringing this guy on to coast. He's known enough to create where all of our people will be going over there, but he's not so known to where he'll be bringing people to us off the list. So they don't even care about if you have something special and amazing to bring to the universe. They care about this number. And so that's what, if you're looking at secret energy and you're looking at what we're doing, that's the big change is that, and also not everybody starts off like perfect and ready to do this. There has to be that testing ground. That's why we have specialist training, which is free, ambassador training, which is the premium for more intensives. And this is to get you in front of the people that are saying, yeah, you need to brush up on this a little bit more. Or I love the way that you're bringing that. Here's some extra stuff that you can use with it. So that's what I have to say about that. I feel like that the conscious community itself is actually the problem in many ways, because we have created something that we can even say that we have, but we're not necessarily treating it different than what the standard industries and how they're treating their assets are. It's just they don't have enough money. They don't have enough control, because if they did, it would be these guys as the gods or these guys as the president. And then us dealing with now, okay, well, you didn't actually balance your chakra centers out in the first place. Oh, you actually haven't even learned what breathing techniques are. Oh, you're just getting high on mushrooms and DMT and then treating that like it's a party drug rather than realizing the integral sacred side of these elements and these plants and what we're doing with them. So that's why, you know, at the end of the day, somebody has got to say, as a whistleblower or whatever you want to call it, like, some improvements here. Like, I can't actually blame all the time, you know, just the overall World Trade Centers and the vultures and all the stuff that's preying upon us, when we have people inside of our own community equipped. They know all of the numbers. They know the metrics. They know the pay-per-click, the cost per minute. They got it down to 0.30 cents cost per minute. But they're still sending you courses rather than just knowledge and information or connection about how you can be one and how you can bring that into total awareness into a community. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't go past the listener's mind to still be aware that we have a lot of power that we are not necessarily governing and using properly, because we have gatekeepers also amongst us. Of course. And this same thing going on since Mount Shasta's, where we have an involvement even with the Central Intelligence Agencies inside of the conscious community, making sure this beautitude that we keep describing doesn't really start trending the way that it should.
Well, can I say one thing? Well, I guess we have to define too what the consciousness community is and not let them define it, right? We're here conscious. We're creating our own communities. Why do we have to, why do we have to pin it on just a few big brands or big channels or big media outlets like Gaia, who through a partner of mine I know the owner of Gaia. He's just a rich guy doing yoga and just kind of making a lot of money and doesn't even have that much control over the content. He trusts in his producers. They're just a media outlet. But I think we give them power when we call them the consciousness community. And I think I kind
of beg to differ only from the state of that the conscious community, since we're using devices like computers, actually becomes keywords. Unfortunately,
but I'm saying we're right now seeing the P2P evolution, the breaking away with content creators being able to have their own platforms, and I think that what you're talking about is so true, and I think it's a reflection of the old guard fracturing and breaking, and those are the original, maybe some of the big name brand innovators, but they have chosen to be part of the old guard, and maybe some will wake up and they'll see the path and they'll move. And I do know the owner of Gaia. He's actually a pretty cool, innovative guy, and he just has a big monolith under him. And he's just kind of, like I said, he's just content doing yoga and kundalini and breath work, and he's just kind of got this money machine under him. And it's just kind of the nature of what we were talking about earlier, the nature of the Fed and the reality of everything around us, how it is, and how that's fracturing and breaking. And we're moving into these new mechanisms like what you're building and what we're building, and we're the future of where that's going. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are resonating with that and are feeling that and are searching for these platforms. So it's good that we're talking today, because I
think it's a necessary because don't get me wrong, I don't think that many of these people sit back and think that they're doing bad things, to be honest. I think actually quite the contrary, that they actually feel like that they're bringing in knowledge or bringing in information or making something happen that otherwise wouldn't happen without them. And I just think that also when that happens, we all get more knowledge about what to do next, right? So there's always a growth process. And just feel like, though, since remember that time draws nigh, like this is 2020, And this kind of behavior has been going on since Mount Shasta. This is not the first time. So, and also even the advent of technologies, being able to, not necessarily computer technologies, but systems that we can use, like, let's say, for instance, when communities are together and then they're all, there's a sharecropping going on and those kind of things. This is all what's just being replicated within the digital environment. I just believe that it's not so much as the technique, because the techniques have always been there. It's really that, it's that awareness. You see what I mean? And it's at, how much is this valuable? How valuable is this to you to actually accomplish? And do you understand what we're losing out on here? Like, do you understand how many children are not getting this and won't get this because of these kind of actions? And what kind of charge that we need to take in order to actually be able to ensure that that becomes a possibility? Or one of my teachers is dead now and spent 40 years of his life. That was the latter part of his life. He died at 80. He spent 40 years of his life thinking that this was going to be something he saw with his eyes. Yep. This beautiful connection between tribe and all this stuff and us coming together and enjoying things. And he died with that on his mind. But, only thing I can do is honor him by making sure that that actually happens, because I'm of whatever it is that I can do and what I can accomplish. And you're right. Now people are, now that they got their feel of that, they also have a greater level of discernment. Like, well, this one's a little bit more generic. This one's a bit more original. I'm going to go for the original, even if there's not 2 zillion people over here. And so, yeah, I just, like I said, I like to vent a little bit and just be like, yeah, but, we see this as long as we all view it together. And then we charge ourselves, like, because, we can't have people like when you get, let's say, like the Donald Trumps, now they're beyond reproach. You try to tell them that something needs to be changed, and then they're like oligarchs. We don't want that in the conscious community, where you're saying to a person, and I'm saying it's conscious community because if you push yoga, if you push meditation, if you push holistic products, who are you pushing them to? Somebody in there is conscious. Because at the end of the day, what does the word conscious mean? But we know that this word conscious community means a certain thing to us. Hashtag vibes, hashtag wholeness, hashtag. And that's becoming the precursor. And so even when someone's just doing that from a superficial level, where they're the youngest of us, they're still in a neophyte stage. And so we still have to shape it up, to mold it up. Like, how do we get Montessori's? How do we get like Steiner schools? Like, how do we get any of this stuff if someone didn't say, here's a new prerequisite to what we should be expecting to achieve the results that we're looking for based on the experience. The experience, not on, I like you, I don't like you, you're with us, you're not with us. What do we need as a whole to really begin to grow? And, one of the biggest challenges that are here for us in the conscious community is actually the children. We're still building applications and things to work for adults. And we have yet, this is like the movie Hugo, you like keep fixing this until you get old and gray and die, because we're not going at where the actual issue is starting at, which is, how are we going to create these curriculums for children? And this stuff does take resources. So I trust that we'll eventually get to the stage where we'll wise up enough to begin to incorporate the proper resources and distribute those resources to the people that we know and the organizations that we know are really about this life. And that we will pay less attention to, those who have gotten their fill. Like, bro, I'm telling you, I don't have millions of dollars and I'm accomplishing all of this. You give me $10 million a month. You see what I mean? So
imagine getting $500 million in an ICO. Imagine what we could have done. You know what I
mean? So I see this play over and over again. But one day soon, it's going to happen.